Hello everyone. Today we will see AWS Lambda. So let me get some official documentation details about AWS Lambda. Okay, now here you can see this AWS Lambda is actually a serverless service or a serverless function which is called as a function as a service. So let me just open AWS Lambda. Okay, now what is AWS Lambda? It says that you can run your code without thinking about servers or clusters, right? Means if you have an EC2 machine, so you'll be running a particular, let's see, applications or functions on it, right? But if you wanted to run a particular function just for a couple of minutes only, so without provisioning an EC2 instance, right? So there is an option called as AWS Lambda, so you can pay only for what exactly you use, right? Now let's scroll below. So these are the benefits of AWS Lambda, like no need to manage servers, automatic scalings, pay as you go pricing. This is what we were talking, and there is a performance optimizations also. Now use cases, we can quickly process the data, run interactive web and mobile backends, enable powerful ML insights, and create event-driven application. This is very important. So like if there are events, we will be talking in one of the examples, like if there is an event, so we can actually trigger the Lambda functions, okay, based on certain events actions. Now see the customer stories. So if I click on see more customers, you will see there are many customers who are actually using AWS Lambda, like the Autodesk is already using Lambda and improving their performance for long running hydraulic modeling simulations, okay. Then we have nationwide children's also. So then Taco Bell, okay. So then Liberty Mutuals, then Siemens, you can see Genetec, Pismo. So there are many customers who are actually getting benefited from AWS Lambda. So this is what about AWS Lambda is. Let me click on an overview. So this is our serverless service on AWS. Getting started with AWS Lambda, you can see it is a compute category service. So obviously developers would prefer to have an AWS Lambda. Now let's go to the AWS console, okay, and understand AWS Lambda functions. Now this is what a dashboard of Lambda. So you can search inside a search box, or else you can go to top left corner. Inside that we have a compute service, and inside a compute Lambda is one of the compute service which is called as run code without thinking service. So let me right click and open this AWS Lambda console. Now this is what a AWS Lambda console, and this is what a regional service is. We have already selected a region called as Hyderabad, and this is what a dashboard of AWS Lambda. So we have to create a function. So let's go to the functions, and inside of functions there is one function which is already created. Okay, so I can open this functions also, and I can see certain details inside. But let's create a functions from the scratch. So let me click on a create functions. Okay, once we click on a create functions, we get an options called as a create functions, and this is what an info section is. So these are what the ways you can create a functions. One is author from the scratch, one other is use a blueprint, so from a sample code or something which is already there, and inside a container image also you might be having certain functions, right? Obviously we will be going with the author from the scratch. So let me go with the function name. So I'll have to specify my Lambda function. Okay, so now there is a need of runtime environments. Now this function is running with the help of which language supported. So these are the language having support for the function. So like we have a .NET 8, Java 21, Node.js, Python and all. So I'll go with the Python. And on which architectures it should run. So there is a processor architecture, right, where this function, because the function also running inside of AWS, so still there is a need of a compute and memory, which will be let's say given from AWS, which is AWS managed, right? So these are the architectures also you can select, and yes, there is a called as permissions. So this I already explained, like we can create a role, okay, for certain services to talk inside an AWS environment. So this permissions will actually help. Okay, if the Lambda is talking to some other service for any retrieval, okay, in a certain data insights. Okay, and so we can change it also, and there are certain additional configurations also we will look into later, right? So let's go with the default things and let's click on a create functions. Okay, let's see, like we have created a function called as my lambda function. Let's click on a lambda function, and this is what are functions that we have created. So inside of functions we'll see this function. Let's go to this my lambda function. Okay, now inside this my lambda functions you can see the code of this lambda, which is a default code just to print hello from lambda, like we have a hello world program inside a Python, right? Now what I'll do, I'll create a event, test events, and I'll run this program. So let me click on a test event. This is what an event you can create. So I can say my event, and if you wanted to pass any parameters you can pass, otherwise you can keep it as a blank. Okay, and let's save test the event now. Okay, now you can see this this function has been successfully executed, and this is what a code we are having inside a lambda function, and this is what an output that we are getting, right? Now this is just a snippet of code or just a default lambda function. Now I'll take you to the lambda function which is having a certain functionality, okay, to execute. Okay, so let me go to the Mumbai region. So inside a lambda I'll choose the Mumbai region, and inside a Mumbai regions, if you go to the functions, so there is a function which I have written for starting and stopping instances. So let me click on this. Okay, now here you can see this there is a code of this function. Okay, as like the way we created a lambda, similar way we also created this function, and inside this lambda function there is a code. With the code I'll just go through the code what it is. Okay, so this is what a code is. So I'll just drag down this code. Okay, now this is what an event handler okay, of the lambda, in which we are passing a region name, and there is a response that we expected to get from this region is instance ID response, and we are calling a function called as get instance ID. Now this functions if we call, okay, this is the definition of this function, get instance ID, in which we have the region name to be passed, and then we are initializing the EC2 client. Okay, this is what a, let's see, library Voto3, which is okay, written in Python, okay, for talking to the AWS components like EC2, IAM, S3 and all. So we have a try and catch block. So here we are expecting an instance IDs, okay, from, okay, the particular region. So here we can see we are describing the instances with the help of describe instance functions, and we are storing the details inside a response which will have all the instances, instance ID, states, and it's a running, we can say, public IP also. So we have a reservations like which instances are in a launch states, then we have an instances inside this reservation, and then we have an instance ID, okay, which we are trying to fetch, right? And then it is giving a return statement that yes, we have got the instance ID from this function, and if it is not happened, then there is a exceptions that there is an error. And this instance IDs we are getting here, okay, instance ID response. If the status code is correct, then we supposed to get this response inside a body, so to print this instance IDs. So here we are printing it, so once we get instances from the Mumbai region. Okay, then we are checking the instance trees actually. So we are passing okay, one instance, okay, inside an instance ID, and then we are calling this function manage instance state just to check it out whether this instance in a stop or running state. So this is what a function where we are passing both the things, instance ID as well as the region name, and inside that we are checking the state of the instance. If it is in the, let's say, stop state, then it should start the instance, and if it is in the running state, then it should stop the instance. So let me show you the instances in a Mumbai region. Right now it is in the stop state. If I run this lambda function, okay, then what will happen, that it will take this instance ID, okay, and this instance ID, if it is in the stop state, then both these instances should be in a running state. This is what a lambda function should do it. Now to do this, okay, the lambda function should have to do a certain configuration. The first is obviously that this function should run at least 5 minutes, you can say, because it will take some time. So by default it runs for 3 seconds only. We can run a Lambda functions up to 15 minutes. This is what a maximum limit we can have. Okay, now inside of permissions, if this Lambda function is running, so there is a okay, so inside of configurations you can see these are certain settings we can edit, including the timeout duration. And inside of functions there is a Lambda role, and this Lambda role is having a permissions to talk to the EC2 instance, which is having terminate actions or deleting or starting something, right? So this we have to provide. So coming back to code, and this should be executed. Now this Lambda functions is having a, let's see, permissions also inside a configuration. Let's see, we are assuming and we have done it. And yes, there is something called as an event. So if the event is getting done, then this Lambda function should trigger, right? So right now also I can run it and I can start and stop the instances, but I want this Lambda function should be triggered based on the events. Okay, so I can add an event also. Let me trigger an event. So I'll say if it is happening with any event rule which is there. So let's go to the event bridge. So we have a CloudWatt each events, and we have a rule. Let's see. So this is a rule that is what I have created. So my rule second, and this rule is talking about EC2 EBS volume notification. In case if anything is happening with EBS volume, like starting and stopping of the instances or creating any EBS volumes, then this event is happen, and if this event is happen, then it should trigger the Lambda function. This is what we are adding as a trigger. Okay, and after we are adding as a trigger, so there is a destination that I should get a notifications. So there is a notifications based on the successful invocations, so called as SNS topic. So SNS topic is a simple notification service, so where it will be sending some kind of we can say notification. So now the topic name is SMS topic, but inside that I have put okay, this is what an SMS topic, you can see. Inside the topics I have two topics, and inside an SMS topic, so there is one email ID which I have subscribed, so that once something is happened with the help of Lambda, it will notify the SNS topic, which is SMS topic, and in which the email should get notification. So coming back to this part, so I'll configure it. Okay, now both the things are configured, the rules are also configured. Let's see, permissions also, and the code is also there, right? Now let's try out certain event notifications. So for that I'll go to the EC2. So this is what an EC2 is, and we have an instances in a stop state. Let me go to the let's see, volume, and I'll click on a create volume. So here I'll be just creating a one simple volume just to test as an event, and I'll say give a name to this volume. Let's see, name extra value, extra volume. Okay, and I'll say create volume, and fine. So let's check. Yes, this volume is created, so means there is an event which was happened, like creating or deleting of a volume. And let's see this, whether this Lambda is triggered. So let me refresh it. Yes, see, now automatically the Lambda was triggered based on the events, and the instances which are in a stop state of a Mumbai region only, it was getting into the running states. And we should be able to get a notifications also. See, we are also getting, okay, now this was a notification. Now let's see that I'll delete this volume once again as a notifications. So let me go to the instances and make it is in a running state. Now it is in a running state, so I wanted to make it happen as a stopped also. So once the Lambda function will trigger, so again it will stop the instances. So I'll do one more event, okay, which is called as delete event. So I'll say delete the same volume which I have created. I'll say delete. So once I have deleted, again the events will be happening, and because of that the trigger will happen. So let's go to the instances and see. Now it is again in the stopping state. So we didn't manually do it, the Lambda was doing it, and again we'll get a notifications for the same that this Lambda function was triggered. Okay, so this is what a Lambda function is all about. Now we can write a code for various let's see, we can say purposes like instant deletion, starting and stopping. Even you can delete an IAM users also if you have multiple users inside your accounts and which are not getting used. So any resources which are not at all being utilized or attached or else, so you can just remove those dependencies. You can delete your IAM users using just to few lines of code and all. So that's it for Lambda, and we'll see Okay, more services which can be integrated with Lambda also.